two, 1 2. One, two, 1 2. All right. 1 2, 1 2. All right, good. No, not good. Next mic. Next. 1 2. All right. All right then. Tell me when you're ready. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Apologies for the late start. We had some technical difficulties. Nonetheless, we're here and we want to welcome you to the official draft for the Dream 11 T20 tournament. Without further ado, T10, sorry, tournament. Without further ado, I want to just welcome everybody, and we want to also welcome the Lord Almighty. We want to start with a prayer. Can Mr. Irish quickly just stand and do us a favor, please? Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, bow heads, please. Almighty and eternal God and architect of the universe, Lord, as we are gathered here this morning for the draft of the Dream 11 Nature Island T10 competition, Father, we invoke your blessings upon this gathering. Father, we thank you for mercy. We thank you for your love. As we gathered here, Father, for this very important inaugural draft, Lord, for this prestigious tournament, we ask you to guide us, Lord, and bless all the officials. Bless all the respective managers, Lord, and the team. We ask you to bless the sponsors and those that will contribute significantly towards the upward movement of cricket in Dominica. Father, we thank you for your mercy. We ask you to bless the Cricket Association and all its members and all the teams that will be participating. And so, Father, before you again, we ask you to give the managers and the coaches and all the players the sort of strength and the guidance that they need so that we may have a professional league. Father, again, we ask you to guide us and bless the teams, the Valley Hikers, the Indian River Rovers, the T2 Gorge Splashers, the Champagne Divers, Barana Ote Warriors, the Sari Sari Sunrisers. And Father, we know that this is an important tournament as we're going through this global pandemic. We're happy that sports can come back and get a chance to move forward. And we ask of thee thy blessing throughout our deliberations today. We ask for the professional touch so that we may understand that this is a serious business. We ask you to give everyone the time management so that the tournament can start on time. This we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Irish. My name is Clement Masley. I'm the Vice President of Dominica Cricket Association. And right about now, we want to welcome the President of Dominica Cricket Association to give us some opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good morning to all. Let me here, managers, coaches, players, observers, good morning to everyone. First of all, I must take note of an output. An output-based outcomes is the result of an input. What you see here today is really hard work that are being done behind the scenes. And sometimes you do not see the hard work, but you see the outcome. And I'm here today by virtue of some persons basically working hard. And for example, I can give you an example. I was in Dallas in January, and we had a meeting at 7 a.m. All right? That was 5 a.m. in my time. So I had to get up at o'clock in the morning to Clement and Leah at 7 a.m. However, it's really to give an acknowledgement of the board and the hard work that has been done so far. Two things basically we must bear in mind as we wrap up quickly because we are behind time is we must first basically use this as a tool to take our cricket forward. So that means we must take ownership of it. And ownership of it would mean that we are looking at our future young boys and young girls in mind. Secondly, we must use the word partnership as well. That if we partner together, we'll understand if we work together, great things will happen. Things will happen for us. So there is no need for, while we compete, there is no need for division and divisiveness. I urge you today to take a hold of what you are into. This is basically serious business. It is not business as usual. It is something that we must show professionalism at all times. And I'm happy that this could help us twist our culture a little bit because you and I know really what our culture is like. So in a short form, I want to say welcome here. Thanks for being here. And we expect you to give your all to ensure that this tournament becomes a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And to my immediate right, I want to give Mr. Liam Sebastian, who is the second vice president of Dominican Cricket Association and the one who is responsible for cricket operations, to take over from here on.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masley. Just permit me if I'm allowed to sit because I basically will be doing a lot throughout the draft order, so just permit me to be seated. Again, we want to apologize for the delayed start. It was technical difficulties. These things do happen, but nonetheless, we are on our way to get this draft sorted out. I know everybody's anticipating or basically want us to start calling the picks, but there are few housekeeping matters that we have to deal with. So far, we want to thank the sponsors who have come on board. And firstly, I want to say thank you to the Office of the Prime Minister and the Government of Dominica, the Ministry of Tourism, the Dominica National Lottery. Really want to thank them for coming on board in very, very, very short notice. Also want to highlight Creole Heartbeat, Creole International Tours, Signal Band, and one of the, well, we have a sponsor from Antigua, Cool and Smooth from Antigua will be one of the main partners, and they have agreed that at the end of this competition that an all-star team will be selected to participate in the Cool and Smooth T20 tournament in 2023. So from this competition, an all-star team will be selected to participate in Antigua in the Cool and Smooth T20 competition. So just want to thank them for coming on board, and we also want, well, I wouldn't mention some of the sponsors that the teams have secured, but just appealing to persons who want to come on board, they can contact the DCA office at the Windsor Park Sports Stadium. The secretary will be willing to assist, and yes, so basically there's still room for everybody to join in, but I think maybe I've said enough, so I want to go straight into it. This morning we'll be launching the team logos, we'll be launching the uniforms, and then we will go straight into the draft where we have 6 teams, and from the visuals you will see that most of them are in different colors. Really want to thank them at short notice again for selecting a color code that suits them. They do not know the colors of their teams, so some may have some off colors when they see their logos as launched, but I want to thank them. All the marquee players are there, except Jelani Robinson. I want to apologize for his absence. He's participating in the Spice ILT20 in Grenada, so he will communicate with his team via WhatsApp. So just want to give a draft guide to persons who are tuning in, and then we'll go into the launching of the logos and the uniforms. Each team will have 1 pick in each round, and the teams will pick in their assigned slots. And when we say their assigned slots, the teams had a dip 2 weeks ago where the draft order for the first round will go with the T2 Gorge Splashers will have the first pick. The Champagne Reef Divers will have the second pick. The Barana Ote Warriors have the third pick. The Indian River Rowers have the 4th pick. The Sari Sari Sunrisers have the 5th pick, and the last pick in the first round will go to the Valley Hikers. The teams will have 90 seconds to submit their picks, and failure to submit their pick within that 90 seconds will result in the team being demoted to the last pick of the round where applicable. All slots have financial stipends, which will be communicated to the players that have been selected in the assigned slots. And any reserve players who are to be brought in at any point will fit directly into the slot with the player that they're replacing. So without further ado, I just want to go straight into the launching of the logos because we're already behind. Just want to confirm with the production that they're ready for us to go. So I will just go straight into the launching of the logos. And the first team that will present the logo represent the Barana Ote Warriors. So we have just launched the first team, the Barana Ote Warriors. The management team for the Barana Ote Warriors, we have Mr. Alec Rafa as the manager, Mr. Thomas Kentish as the coach, and Mr. Gian Benjamin as the marquee player. So we have the Barana Ote Warriors. The second team that we will launch we have the Valley Hikers. We have the Valley Hikers. And the management team for the Valley Hikers, we have manager, Mr. Gary Benjamin, coach, Mr. Phoenix Thomas, and the marquee player, Mr. Kevin James. So we have the Valley Hikers, the second team to be launched. The third team that we will launch, we have the Champagne Reef Divers. The Champagne Reef Divers. The management team for the Champagne Reef Divers, we have Miss Kimara Ito as the manager. And just want to say happy birthday to you, Kimara. Hope you have a good day today. Coach, Mr. Mervyn Thomas. Mr. Mervyn Thomas, the coach. And the marquee player, Mr. Micah Joseph. So we have Champagne Reef Divers. The next team that we will launch the T2 Gorge Splashers. We have the T2 Gorge Splashers, and the management team for the T2 Gorge Splashers team, manager Miss Yvette Laura, coach Mr. Ray Kazimi, and marquee player in absence Mr. Jelani Robinson. So we have the T2 Gorge Splashers. The next team that we will launch, the logo is Sari Sari Sunrisers. Sari Sari Sunrisers. And the management team for the Sari Sari Sunrisers, we have the manager, Mr. Ainsworth Irish. And I want to single him out so far. He's really going deep into this. He has already printed his personal T-shirt where you can see the logo on Gym 11. So well done, Mr. Irish. The coach, Mr. Alexander Burton. And the marquee player, Mr. Kajimi Benjamin. So Sari Sari Sunrisers is the fifth team. And the final team that we will launch, we have the Indian River Rowers. The Indian River Rowers. And the management team for the Indian River Rowers, we have the manager, Mr. Augustine Pascal, the coach, Mr. Sam Kernan, and the marquee player, Mr. Vincent Lewis. So the final team that we are launching is the Indian River Rowers. So we will now go into the launching of the uniforms, and we will follow the same order that we just went in. So The first uniform that we will launch in the inaugural by Dream 11, we are now launching the uniforms of the Barana Ote Warriors. Just one, wait, sorry. I'm Tito Gospel, Indian River Road, sorry. But we are going to launch the uniforms of the Barana Ote Warriors. So we're just getting that sorted. And there you have the uniforms of the Barana Ote Warriors. So any persons willing to support the Barana Ote Warriors, you know that your color is yellow. We now launch the warm-up uniforms of the Barana Ote Warriors. Okay, sorry, we do not have that loaded. So we'll go to the next team. The second team that will launch the uniforms, we are going over to the south side. We have the Champagne Reef Divers. Second uniform that we have just launched, the Champagne Reef Divers, so the color is blue. We have a few teams in blue, so we'll have some clashes, I suspect. The third team that we will launch in the uniforms, we have the Valley Hikers. So we have just launched the Valley Hikers, and you can see the dominant color is. And then we now go to the fourth team that will launch the uniform to Gorge Flashers. Come on, give them a bigger round of applause than that. Give them a bigger round of applause than that. The next team that we will launch, a very interesting uniform, we are going to the Sari Sunrisers. And I'm not too sure if the management team got that color code correct, but they're all dressed in yellow. And then the final team that we are launching the uniforms of the inaugural Nature Isle 10 is the Indian River Rowers. So just want to go over them again. Just saw the benefit of the viewers. Can we just have the Barana Ote Warriors again? Next, we have the Champagne Reef Divers. Champagne Reef Divers. Then we have the Valley Hikers. T2 Gorge Splashers. Sari Sunrisers. And finally, Indian River Rowers. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The uniforms have been launched. The warm-up uniforms will be of similar colorways of all the teams, which will be submitted to them as soon as possible. So we have now done of the house matters in terms of launching the logos, and now we get into the main event which we have been here for. So we are now going to God Splashers is the first team. So as soon as we say the draft starts now, T2 God Splashers will have 90 seconds to submit their pick. So the Nature Isle, the inaugural Nature Isle T10 draft, A Taste of Nature, starts now. On the clock, with the first pick, we have the T2 Gauge Splashers. The first pick, the T2 Gauge Splashers. The pick is in. The pick for the T2 Gauge Splashers is in. And we're just waiting to have the pick shown on the television screen. So the pick for the T2 Gauge Splashers is in. And with the first pick of the inaugural Nature Isle T10 draft, the T2 Splashers have selected Vivian Teat. Vivian Teat is the first pick Nature Isle T10 draft going to the T2 Gauge Splashers. Come on, let's give Vivian a round of applause. Come on. So now that the first pick has been selected, Champagne Reef Divers, you're now on the clock. The pick is in. The second pick in the Nature Isle T10 draft. The Champagne Divers has selected Jed Joseph. Jed Joseph is the second pick in the draft. Now we have the Barana Ote Warriors on the clock. Barana Ote Warriors on the clock. So we have the third pick in the first round, and it seems like the pick is in. The pick is in. With the third pick in the inaugural Nature Isle T10 draft, the Barana Ote Warriors have selected Courtney Anselm. Courtney Anselm, the third pick in the first round of the Nature Isle T10 draft. The fourth pick, you now have Indian River Rowers. Sorry, you're now on the clock. Indian River Rowers, you're on the clock. Pick is in. The pick is in. And it will be published very soon. The pick is in. The fourth pick in the T10 draft, the Indian River Rowers have selected Dion Burton. Dion, round of applause for the picks. Come on. Sari Sunrisers, you are now on the clock. Sari Sunrisers, you are now on the clock. And the pick is already in. With the first pick at Sari Sunrisers with number 5 in the first round, Sari Sunrisers have selected Stefan Pascal. Stefan Pascal has been selected by the Sari Sunrisers And this now means that the Valley Hikers, you are now on the clock. The Valley Hikers, you are now on the clock. We are just awaiting the pick of the Valley Hikers. Seems like the pick has been submitted. With the sixth pick in the first round, the Valley Hikers have selected Kyle KB. Kyle KB goes to the Valley Hikers. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the first round. We now move swiftly to the second round, where we'll give the team 5 seconds, and then the first team, the Valley Hikers, will be first on the clock in the second round. So the Valley Hikers, you are now on the clock. Seems like the pick has been submitted, and we now have the pick of the Valley Hikers. With the first pick in the second round of the Nature Island T10 Dream 11 draft, the Valley Hikers have selected Yawani Regis. Yawani Regis. So the Valley Hikers have selected Yawani Regis as the first pick in the second round. Sari Sunrisers, you are now on the clock. It's the pick. Very fast, very smooth. Teams have been doing a lot of planning. With the second pick of the second round of the Nature Island T10 draft, the Sari Sunrisers have selected Brian Joseph. Brian Joseph goes to Sari Sunrisers in the second round. This now means that the Indian River Rowers are now on the clock. The pick has been submitted by the Indian River Rowers in the second round with pick number 3. In the second round, the Indian River Rowers have submitted their pick. And the Indian River Rowers have selected Lex McGlaw. Lex McGlaw. This now means that the Barana Ote Warriors, you are now on the clock. Barana Ote Warriors, you are now on the clock with the 4th pick in the second round. Gets interesting now that teams are taking a little longer to submit the picks. The pick is in. The manager, Alec Rafa, has the pick of the Barana Ote Warriors. With the 4th pick, the Barana Ote Warriors has made a return to cricket to Mr. Mervyn Matthew. Mr. Mervyn Matthew have been selected by the Barana Ote Warriors. With the 4th pick, Mervyn Matthew has been selected, which now means that Champagne Reef Divers, you are now on the clock. Champagne Reef Divers with the 5th pick of the second round. The pick have been submitted. The pick has been submitted by the Champagne Reef divers. And with the fifth pick of the second round, the Champagne Reef Divers has selected Jasion Alexander. Jasion Alexander goes to Champagne Reef Divers. This now means that the final pick in round 2, T2 Gulf Splashers, you're now on the clock. The pick has been submitted. The pick has been submitted, and we are just waiting for the pick to be loaded, and then we'll announce the final pick in the second round of the Dream 11 Nature Isle T10 tournament. And with the final pick in the second round, the T2 Gulf Splashers has selected Malachi Xavier. Malachi Xavier goes to the T2 Gulf Splashers. So far, the T2 Gulf Splashers have selected 2 Tremors personnel. It seems like we're having a Tremors team. Jelani, Malachi, Vivian. This is very interesting. And this brings us to the end of round number 2. And we move on swiftly in the next seconds to round number 3, where Champagne Reef Divers, and even before I said that, the pick is in. So the pick has been submitted in the third round. Champagne Reef Divers of the Dream 11 Nature Isle T10. Waiting for the pick to be loaded. The first pick, the Champagne Reef Divers select Kamal Mate Hamilton. Kamal Hamilton has been selected. Champagne Reef Divers, which now takes Barna Ote Warriors on the clock. The pick is in. The pick has been submitted by the Barna Ote Warriors, and we're just waiting for it to be loaded. With the second pick of the third round, the Barna Warriors have connected. Dylan Joseph goes to the Barna Ote Warriors. With the second pick in the third round, Gulf Splashers is on the clock. The pick has been submitted by the coach, Ray Kazimi, and we are just waiting for the pick to be loaded. The pick has been submitted by the T2 Gulf Splashers, round 3, pick number 3. With pick number 3 in the third round, the T2 Gulf Splashers has selected Odiama Honore. Honore has been selected by the T2 Gulf Splashers, which now means that Sunrisers are on the clock. It seems like these picks are going very fast. The pick has been submitted by the Sari Sunrise with the loading of that pick. We are now in round 3 with pick number 4. The Sari Sunrisers have submitted their pick. Round 3, pick number 4. And with the fourth pick of the Dream 11 Nature Isle T10 draft, the Sari Sari Sunrise, Sebastian Bruman. Sebastian Bruman selected by the Sari Sari Sunrisers, which means that the Valley Hikers, you're now on the clock. Just want to use this opportunity to say thanks to title sponsor Dream 11 for making this event possible. Valley. We're now with the pick of the Valley Hikers. It's getting interesting now. The picks are taking a little longer to be selected. It's getting interesting. The pick has been submitted by captain, marquee player Kevin James. The pick is in. Dream 11 Nature Isle T10, brought to you by Dream 11, as we just said, and the pick with the fifth pick in the third round, the Valley Hikers has selected John Fabian. John Fabian goes to the Valley Hikers, which now means that Indian River Rowers, well, they're not on the clock because the pick has been submitted. So the Indian River Rowers have submitted their pick, which is the final pick in round number 3, and we just wait for that pick to be loaded, and then we'll announce it. Just want to say thanks to the sponsors who have come on board. With Dream 11 as title sponsors, the Office of the Prime Minister and Government of Dominica, Cool and Smooth, Creole International Tours, Creole Heartbeat, Signal Band. Just want to say thanks for coming on board thus far. And with the final pick in round number 3, the Indian River Rowers has selected Sholon George. Sholon George goes to Indian River Rowers in round number 3. That brings us to the end of the third round. And we move swiftly to the fourth round, where the Sari Sari Sunrisers, well, as they are not on the clock because the pick is in. So the Sari Sari Sunrisers have submitted their pick for 4. Dream 11 Nature Isle T10 bowls off on May 22nd and the 5th of June. And we now announce the Sari Sari Sunrisers with the first pick of the fourth round has selected Kyron Phillip. Kyron Phillip has been selected by the Sari Sari Sunrisers, which now means that Indian River Rowers are on the clock. Indian River Rowers are on the clock with the second pick in the fourth round. The pick is in. The pick is in. The second pick in the fourth round by Indian River Rowers. Just want to encourage persons who are tuned in to get ready to support the Nature Isle, the Dream 11 Nature Isle T10, the inaugural competition, May 22nd to June 5th. You have seen the colors of the uniforms. So you will decide after the draft which team that you will be supporting. With the second pick of the fourth round, the Indian River Rowers has selected Rick James. Rick James. It now means that the Valley Hikers are on the clock. The Valley Hikers will select the third pick of the fourth round. The pick is in. With the third pick from the Valley Hikers are selected Delaney Alexander. Delaney Alexander, and I'm hearing some sighs. It seems like other people were interested in Delaney. So it's getting interesting. It's getting interesting. The third pick of the fourth, Delaney Alexander, goes to the Valley Hikers, which now brings T2 Gosh Splashers on the clock. The T2 Gosh, the pick is in. The pick is in. Splashers will pick number 4 in round 4. And the T2 Gosh Splashers again are going to the Tremors team. And the T2 Gosh Splashers has selected Kasim Peltier. Kasim Peltier goes to the T2 Gosh Splashers with pick number 4, round number 4, which now makes Barna Ote Warriors as the next pick in round. Barna Ote Warriors up next. And the pick is in. The pick is in. Seems like some meticulous planning has been going on with these teams. Very, very interesting. We have the pick in, just waiting for the pick to be loaded for the benefit of the persons looking in. We are in round number 4. And the Barna Ote Warriors, with the 5th pick of the 4th round, have selected Delroy Liverpool. Delroy Liverpool goes to Barna Ote 4th round. And now, pick, we just to be loaded. The Champagne Reef Divers selected their pick in round number 4. Again, just want to encourage persons to get ready. May 22nd, June 5th, and if you pick Adrian Matthew. Adrian Matthew goes to the Champagne Reef Divers in round number 4. And to the end of round 4. And we swiftly move to round number 5 and Barna Ote Warriors on the clock. Again, saying thanks to the sponsors, Dream 11, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Government of Dominica, International Tours, just to remind persons looking in, we have 12 rounds, and we are at round number 5. With the first pick, we are to be loaded, which will be selected by the Barna Ote Warriors. And with the first pick of the 5th round, the Barna Ote Warriors are selected Kishon Viville. Kishon Viville has been selected by the Barna Ote Warriors, which now brings T2 Gold Splashers on the clock with the 2nd pick of round 5. To seek information, can contact us or follow the social media platforms. The website for the competition will be launched in the next few weeks, where all the information related to the tournament will be published. And the T2 Gold Splashers has submitted their pick in round number 5 with pick number 2. And the T2 Gold Splashers with pick number 2 in round 5 has selected Elton Mack. Elton Mack has been selected by T2 Gold Splashers, which now brings Champagne Reef Divers on the clock. And for the benefit of the persons who are looking in, there's a lot of size being going around in the room, because I'm sure that some picks are going maybe to teams that some persons were eyeing. So the pick has been submitted. It's very, very interesting if you are in this draft room. If you are in the draft room, the Champagne Reef Divers in round 5 number 3 has been selected by Kim the Michael Brink. Selected Champion Reef Divers. Jolly goes to the Champagne Reef Divers with the third pick of the 5th round, which now makes the Valley Hikers on the clock. Coach Benjamin, Kevin James, and his crew are now on the clock. The Valley Hikers with pick number 4 in round 5. Pick number 4 in round 5, and the pick has been submitted. And just want to say thanks to Mr. Delvin Esprit for assisting with the picks. Round 5, pick number 4. The pick has been submitted by the Valley Hikers. The Valley selected Jamie James. Jamie James goes to the Valley Hikers with pick number 4 in round 5. I don't think anybody from Indian River Road. It seems like they wanted Jamie, but I'm leave that for another. Now brings Indian River Rowers on the clock with pick number 5 in round 5. Pick has been selected. It doesn't even give us a chance to change the logos because these picks are going so fast. But a lot of sighs of relief in this draft room. The pick has been selected. Indian River Rowers, number 5 in round 5. The pick is submitted. Just waiting for the pick to be loaded. Is the pick loaded? Is the pick loaded? With the 5th pick of the 5th round, the Indian River Rowers has selected Savio Anselm. Savio Anselm. Why is this all this sigh of relief? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Savio Anselm has been selected with the 5th pick of round number 5, which makes Sari Sunrisers, as the final team to select in round number 5. So Sari Sunrisers, you're now on the clock. Well, they're no longer on the clock because the pick, we just wait the pick to be submitted. And I remember seeing that name first on a team's list. Last one in 5. Is on the clock. And imagine the first pick for round number 6 is already in, and we are still in round number 5. The first pick for round number 6, it'll be interesting to see if that pick is the one that's coming up. For round number 6 is in. No, it's not in, but it's ready, and we're still in round number 5. Very, very interesting. And with the final pick of round number 5, the Sari Sunrisers has selected Romain Paris. Romain Paris, and I can see some people looking at each other. I will not mention who, but I can see some people looking at each other. Romain Paris has been selected as the final pick in round number 5, and we now swiftly across to round number 6. Well, Indian River is no longer on the clock because the pick was submitted since yesterday. So we have the first pick in round number 6. The Indian River Rowers select first. First pick in round Ladies and gentlemen, you're looking at the Untitled T10 draft brought to you by Dream 11, May 22nd to June 5th. Just encourage of the Dream 11. Just waiting for the Indian River pick to be loaded. And the pick is loaded. And with the first pick of round number 6, the Indian River Rowers has selected Tyrese Libla. Tyrese Libla has been selected first with this first pick. And we now have the second pick in round number 6. The Valley Hikers, you're on the clock. The Valley Hikers, you're on the clock with pick number 2 in round 6. Pick number 2 in round 6. The Valley Hikers, we await your pick. Each team has 90 seconds to submit their pick. Failure to do so, it means that the team will be demoted to the last pick of the particular round. The Valley Hikers, the pick is in. The pick is in. The Valley Hikers have submitted pick. And we want that pick to be loaded for the benefit of the viewers. Want to thank those who have tuned in, eagerly awaiting to see where their favorite players have been selected in the inaugural T10 draft. And we see Mr. Delvin Esprit at the back practicing, but unfortunately he wasn't submitted in the draft list, so Mr. Esprit is unfortunate. And with the second pick of round number 6, the Valley Hikers has selected Shaquem Thomas. Shaquem Thomas goes to the Valley Hikers in round 6, pick number 2, which makes Sari Sunrisers no longer on. The pick is Sari Sunrisers, so we just wait the pick to be loaded. We are at pick number 3 in round 6, the Sari Sunrisers. The Sari Sunrisers. The Sari Sunrisers. And the pick is in round number 6, pick number 3. The Sari Sunrisers selects Joel Mingo. Joel Mingo goes to the Sari Sunrisers in the 6th round, pick number 3, which now makes Champagne Reef Divers on the clock. Champagne Reef Divers on the clock. And they are no longer on the clock because the birthday girl has submitted the pick. Champagne Reef Divers, pick number 4. Pick number 4, round 6. Okay, the Champagne Reef Divers in round 6, number 4. The Champagne Reef Divers has selected Ismail Lendo. Ismail Lendo goes to the Champagne Reef Divers with pick number 4, round 6, which now brings Tito Gorge Splashers with pick number 5 on the clock. Tito Gorge Splashers. Check, 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 check. Check, check, mic check. Check, check, mic check. Mic check, round number 7 up next. Round number 7 up next. Just give us some time before we restart. Before we start with round number 7, number 1 of the inaugural Nature Isle T10 tournament brought to you by Dream 11. On the clock. Well, they're no longer on the clock. The pick is in. Okay, so with the first pick of the 7th round, waiting for the pick to be loaded. Just awaiting the pick to be loaded. And we now announce the first pick of round number 7. Select Neol Payne. Neol Payne goes to T2 Gold Splashers. And there's a little bit of banter going on between two teams. Neol Payne selected number 1 in round 7. And Champagne Reef Divers, you're on the clock. Champagne Reef Divers, well, they are no longer on the clock because pick is in, so we are waiting to be loaded, sorry. The Champagne Reef Divers, pick number 2. Pick number 2 in round 7. Champagne Reef Divers of the Dream 11 Nature Isle T10 competition. And the Champagne Reef Divers with pick number 2 in round 7 select Nicholas Bruno. Nicholas Flick Bruno has been selected with pick number 2 in round 7. Pick number 2, round 7, Nicholas. And now we have on the clock Barana Ote Warriors. The Barana Ote Warriors are on the clock in round 7. And that pick has been submitted. Manager Alec Raffa submits his pick. And we await that pick to be loaded. And with the third pick of round number 7, the Barana Ote Warriors select Andy Matthew. Andy Matthew goes to the Barana Ote with the first pick of round number 7, which brings Champagne Reef Divers. No, sorry. Indian River Rowers, sorry, well, they are right there. So the pick has been submitted. I apologize for that. Champagne Reef would have loved to have another pick in that round. The pick is in. Round number 7. Pick number 4. Round number 7, pick number 4. Just await the pick. With the 4th pick of round number 7, Indian River Rowers, Gavin Masley. Gavin Masley to Indian River Rowers. Round 7, pick number 4. Sari Sunrisers, you're now on the clock. Sari Sunrisers, you are now on the clock with the pick. And the pick is in. And we await the pick to be loaded. 7. Sorry. The 5th pick. The 5th pick of round 7. Sorry, showing that we have the Red Cross on hand by selecting Mr. Clyde Paley. Clyde Paley goes to the Sari Sunrisers in round 7. Pick number 5. And that Valley Hikers as the final pick in round 7. The Valley Hikers will be the final pick. And the pick is in. It's in. Thank you, manager. Pick is in. We await that pick to be loaded. And the Valley Hikers, with the final pick of round 7, they have selected Kyle James. Kyle James goes to the Valley Hikers with the final pick of round number 7. And the Valley Hikers are on the clock for round number 8. The Valley Hikers will start off round number 8 with the first pick They're on the clock. We await that pick. Yeah, leave it. And the coach Phoenix Thomas has submitted his pick. And we await that pick loaded. Wrong number 8. We remember we have 12 wrongs. We have 12 wrongs. We are at wrong number 8. And with the first pick of round number 8, the Valley Hikers select Jesse Masley. Well, look, somebody frightened. Jesse Badwell was anticipating his name. Jesse Masley to the Valley Hikers, pick number 1, wrong 8, which brings Sari Sunrise on the clock. In wrong 8, pick number 2, Sunrisers. You're now on the clock. Just want to say thanks to the sponsors. Dream 11, the Office of the Prime Minister, Dominican National Lotteries, Signal Band, Creole International Tours, Creole Heartbeat, Cool and Smooth Antigua. We await the pick to be loaded. Wrong number 8, pick number 2. Wrong number 8, pick number 2. The Sari Sunrisers has submitted the selection. Just want to say thanks to the media and all those in the draft room. With pick number 2 in wrong 8, the Sari Sunrisers have arrested Cheston Dangleben. Cheston Dangleben has been selected by the Sari Sunrisers. Indian River Rowers on the clock. Indian River Rowers are now on the clock with pick number 3, round 8. Pick number 3, round 8. And the pick is submitted by Indian River Rowers. Indian River Rowers have submitted the pick. Dream 11 Nature Isle T10, May 22nd to June 5th. Matches will be held daily. 3 matches per day on 4 days, 2 matches per day. And on finals day, we have 1 big match on the 5th of June. Dream 11 T10, Nature Isle, the pick is in and it is submitted. The Indian River Rowers are selected with the third pick of wrong number 8, Mr. Ashwan Lockhart. Mr. Ashwan Lockhart has been selected by the Indian River Rowers. Wrong 8, number 3, which brings the Barana Ote Warriors on the clock. The Barana Ote Warriors are in wrong 8, pick number 4. The pick submitted by Mr. Alec Raffer. Gian Benjamin, Marquee player, Thomas Yaga Kentish, the coach. Pick number 4. The pick to be just want to thanks to Vibian TV, official partners, official production partners for the competition, bringing MO News. With pick number 4 of round number 8, the Barana Oat Warriors select Fabian Benjamin or Fabian, I'm not too sure how it's pronounced. Fabian Benjamin with the 4th pick of round number 8, which brings Champagne Reef Divers on the clock, number 5. And the pick has been submitted. The Champagne Reef Divers, pick number 5, round 8. Remember, we have 12 rounds, so we are getting close to the end. And the Champagne Reef Divers has selected Lee Louisy with pick number 5 of round 8. Lee Louisy, pick number 5, round 8. which now brings the Tito Gauze the Tito Gauze Splashers on the clock with the final pick of round 8. The Tito Gauze Splashers, the pick is in. The pick is in. The pick is in. And I'm sure Jelani is looking from either. He's about to take the field in the Spice Isle T10, but he's keeping one. And we are waiting. So the pick round number 8, the Tito Gauze Splashers select Luvio Charles. Luvio Charles has been selected by the Tito Gauze Splashers in round number 8, pick 6, which brings the Champagne Reef Divers to start off round number 9. And Champagne Reef Divers, you're now on the clock. Round number 9, 12. Just want to remind persons, Dream 11 Nature Isle T10, May 22nd to June 5th. Matches will be daily. Stay tuned for all further updates. And the pick has been submitted. The Champagne Reef Divers. The Champagne Reef Divers, round number 9, pick number 1. And we await that pick to be loaded. We await that pick to be loaded. The Champagne Reef Divers are on the clock, number 9. And it seems like Jelani has company with. So we now go to Champagne Reef Divers as selected St. Paul's batsman. Raphael has been selected by the Champagne Reef Divers. And that brings the Barna Ote Warriors on the clock with pick number 2, round 9. The pick is in. The pick is in. Barna Ote Warriors, round number 9, pick number 2. And we await the pick to be, well, in fact, it is loaded. Now the Barna Ote Warriors select Morel Burton goes to the Barna Warriors with pick number 2, round 9, which brings Tito Gauze Splashers on the clock with pick number 3. The pick is in. The pick is in. The Tito Gauze Splashers, the pick is in. We await the loading of that pick. Shahim Cesar, another Tremors player. The Tito Gauze Splashers, dominated by Tremors. Shahim Cesar, pick number 3, round 9. And this means that Sari Sunrisers, you are now on the clock with pick number 4. The pick is in. We are waiting the loading of that pick. Just want to thank everyone for tuning in and following the draft. The pick is in. And we will know the Sari Sunrisers in round number 9, pick number 4, select Nixon Athanas. Nixon to Sari Sunrisers with pick number 4, round 9, which brings the Valley Hikers on the clock with pick number round 9. You're tuned in to the Nature Isle T10. Inaugural to you by Dream 11. Other major sponsors, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Government of Dominica, Signal Band, Creole International Tours, Creole Heartbeat, Cool and Smooth Antigua. Just want to say TV will be our official partners, official production partners for the Dream 11 T10. The Valley Hikers is in. Pick number 5, round number 9 is in. Selected by the Valley Hikers. The Valley Hikers with number 9, selected Clemens Leblanc. Clemens Leblanc goes to the Valley Hikers with pick number 5 of round 9, 12. And we are with the Indian River Rowers with the final pick of round number 9. Final pick of round number 9. So you know. The pick is in. The pick is in round number 9, pick 6. The Indian River Rowers select Labassiere. Pick number 6, round 9. Pick number 6, round 9. And you see here in Labassiere. It now brings the Sari Sunrisers on the clock with the first pick of round 10. The first pick of round 10 is in at Sari Sunrisers. Remember, this is round number 10, 12. Round number 10, 12. Sari Sunrisers. The Sari Sunrisers with the first pick of round 10 select Delbert Graham. Delbert Graham selected by the Sari Sunrisers. Pick number 1 of round 10, which now means Indian River Rowers, you're on the clock. Indian River Rowers, you're on the clock. With pick number 2 in round 10. We are coming very, very close to the end of this interesting draft. The inaugural Nature Isle T10 draft brought to you by Dream 11 and other title sponsors, major sponsors, sorry. May 22nd to June 5th, a taste of nature. All team lists and information will be published on the DCA Facebook page. Team uniforms and logos. The Indian River Rowers are on the clock. Pick number 2. Round 10. The pick is in. The pick is in. Round number 10. Pick number 2, Indian River Rowers. Pick number 2, Indian River Rowers select Joel Duran. Joel Duran selected by the River Rowers with pick number 2, round 10. The Valley Hikers with the third pick, you're on the clock. And the pick is in with the third pick in round number 10. The Valley Hikers select Amiel Gilbert. Amiel Gilbert selected by the Valley Hikers with pick number 3, round 10. Now means that the T2 Gorge Splashers, you're on the clock. The T2 Gorge Splashers are on the clock. I apologize to Miss Yvette Laura and her team. Right, in round number 10, pick number 4, T2 Gorge Splashers select Sawan Lockhart. Sawan Lockhart goes to the T2 number 4, round 10, which now means Barana Ote Warriors. Barana Ote clock. Barana Ote Warriors pick, and we await the loading of that pick. This individual will be very happy when his name is called. He has been sending a lot of messages saying that he believes in God. Well, you have now been selected. We pick 5, the Barana Ote Warriors in round number 10. Select Shamoy Williams. Shamoy Williams. Shamoy Williams selected pick number 5, round 10, which now means Champion Reef Divers. You're on the clock with the final pick in round 10 of 12. Is in the final pick of round number 10. Champion Reef Divers, round 10, pick 6. And they have selected Joshua Sylvester, pick number 6, round 10. Divers. This now means that the Barana Ote Warriors are on the clock with pick number 1, round number 11 of 12. Round number 11, pick number 1. Barana Ote Warriors are on the clock. 10 inaugural draft brought to you by Dream 11. Want to say thank you to sponsors, Office of the Prime Minister, the Government of Dominica, National Lotteries, Signal Band, Cool and Smooth Antigua, Creole Heartbeat, Creole International Tours, and major sponsors, the title sponsors Dream 11 of India, and the Barana Ote Warriors have submitted their pick. And the pick is loaded. The Barna OTA Warriors select Wayne Oakis with pick number 1, round 11. Pick Oakis, which now brings T2 Gorge Splashers. And the pick is in. T2 Gorge Splashers are selected. Somebody. Round number 11. The pick is in. The pick is in. And I'm sure this team should from maybe Desiree because the T2 God Splashers select John Matthew. John Matthew with pick number 2, round 11. John Matthew selected Penrith Divers on the clock with pick number 3 in round number 11. And it's interesting to see if the Champagne Reef Divers will match up with somebody from St. Paul's. Because the T2 God Splashers are dominating with the Tremors players. So we are with the third pick. The pick is in by the birthday girl, the manager of the Champagne Reef, round number 11, Miss Kimara Ito. With the leading of that pick, ladies and gentlemen, we are quickly coming to the end of this draft. At the end of the draft, we will call out the names of all the teams, and later it will be published on the DCA Facebook page and published on social media platforms. With the third pick of round number 11, the Champagne Reef Divers select Melvin Defoe. Melvin Defoe, which now brings the Valley Hikers on the clock. And we have some size of relief from other teams in the draft. I won't say which ones, but we are very, very close to the end. Round number 11 of 12, we are at pick number 4, the Valley Hikers. Coach Thomas has selected his pick. I'm not too sure if he thinks his selection is very well folded. And the Valley Hikers have submitted their pick. And with the fourth pick of round number 11, the Valley Hikers select D'Artagnan Latai. D'Artagnan Latai has been selected by the Valley Hikers in round 4, in pick number 4, round number 11, which now brings the Indian River Rowers on the clock. And the pick has been submitted. The Indian River Rowers have submitted their pick. And this surname has been dominating this draft in terms of a few players. We have the Matthews. And then we have this next one. I think it's a given where we'll be going. The Indian River Rowers. We await the loading of that pick. I was just told confidentially that this person may be the water boy for the Indian River Rowers. Mr. Clement Masle selected Mr. Clement Masle, who is this guy to my left for the benefit of the listeners, of the viewers, sorry. Round number 5. I'm saying wrong number 5. Pick number 5, round 11. And it brings Sari Sunrisers on the clock with the final pick. Sari Sunrisers, you're up with the final pick of round 11 of 12. So I'm sure some persons will be hoping that they get selected in this final 7 picks. The Sari Sunrisers have selected their pick. Dream 11, Nature Isle T10, A Taste of Nature, May 22nd to June 5th. Pick number 6, round 11. Pick number 6, round 11. The Sari Sunrisers select Anil Fountain. Anil Fountain goes to the Sari Sunrisers with the final pick of round 11, which brings the Indian River Rowers as the first pick in the final round of this draft. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now at the final round of the inaugural Dream 11 draft. The Indian River Rowers has submitted their pick. The Indian River Rowers have submitted their pick. And in the final, with the first pick, the Indian River Rowers with their final pick select Mr. Kine George. Mr. Kine George goes to Indian River Rowers. It now brings the Valley Hikers on the clock with their final pick of this draft. The Valley Hikers are now on the clock with their final pick, which is pick number 2 of round 12. Pick number 2 of round 12. Want to thank the media, Sir Delvin Esprit and everybody assisting us, MO News, staff of the DCA, managers, coaches, marquee players, and to those viewing, anticipate a very, very interesting tournament with the 6 franchises. And we await the Valley Hikers pick, their final pick of this draft. The final pick of this draft. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this draft, we will read out the teams that has been selected in the draft, and it will be published on social media, DCA Facebook page, along with the uniforms and other important material. 22nd, mark that date. It's a taste of nature. Dream 11 broadcasting this major international tournament worldwide. And Mr. Phoenix Thomas will drop in his final pick into the ballot box. And with the second pick of round 12, the Valley Hikers with their final pick select Mr. Quinton Hilaire. Mr. Quinton Hilaire, and I'm hearing somebody saying Weebodier. I'm not too sure who wanted to select him. So it now brings Sari Sunrisers on the clock with their final pick, which is the third pick of round number 12. The third pick of round number 12. Sari Sunrisers, you're on the clock. And the pick is in. This is the final round of this draft. The final round of this draft. The Sari Sunrisers have selected their final pick, which is the third pick in round number 12. And I now see the reason why we heard Weebodier, because I'm seeing out on this. The Sari Sunrisers select Mr. Keron James. Mr. Keron James goes to the Sari Sunrisers, which now brings the Champagne Reef Divers on the clock with their final pick. And that pick is in. Let's see if it's a competition between Chalmers and St. Paul's. The final pick of the Champagne Reef Divers. Pick number 4 12. Pick number 4, round 12. The Champagne Reef Divers have submitted their final pick. Their final. And with the 4th pick of the final round, the final pick of Champagne Reef Divers, they select Donald Clark. Mr. Donald Clark has been selected by the Champagne Reef Divers, which now brings the T2 Gorge Splashers on the clock with their final pick of this draft. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 picks left, and that pick in. The pick is in. How much time on the clock? The pick is in. The T2 Gorge Splashers has selected their final pick, which is pick number 5 of round 12 of the inaugural Dream 11 Nature Isle T10 draft. The T2 Gorge Splashers has selected their pick. Pick number 5. Pick number 5 of round 12. Tyron George goes to the T2 Gorge Splashers. Tyron George goes to the T2 Gorge Splashers, which now brings the Barna Ote Warriors with the final pick to close off this draft. And ladies and gentlemen, at the end of this draft, we will call out the names of all the players who have been selected. The pick is in. The Barna Ote Warriors have submitted their final pick, which is the final pick of the inaugural Dream 11 Nature Isle T10 draft. Again, want to thank the sponsors, title sponsors, the government of Dominica, Dominica National Lotteries, Creole International Tours, Creole Heartbeat, Cool and Smooth Antigua, Signal Band as the major sponsors. And we now announce the final pick of the inaugural Nature Isle T10 draft, sponsored by Dream 11. The Barna Ote Warriors select Jeremy Isaac. Jeremy Isaac goes to the Barna Ote Warriors. The Barna Ote Warriors. And ladies and gentlemen, we now have a quick recap of the teams. We will now have a quick recap of the teams. And just to list them, the T2 Gorge Splashers, managed by Yvette Laura, coached by Ray Kazimi. Jelani Robinson, the marquee player. The players on the T2 Gorge Splashers, Vivian Teet, Malachi Xavier, Odiama Honore, Kasim Peltier, Elton Mark, Junior Jovier, Neol Payne, Luvio Charles, Shahim Cesar, Sawan Lockhart, John Matthew, and Tyron George. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the T2 Gorge Splashers team. And now we have the Champagne Reef Divers, managed by Ms. Kimara Ito, coach Mr. Mervyn Thomas, Micah Joseph, the marquee player. The team reads Jed Joseph, Jasion Alexander, Kamal Hamilton, Adrian Matthew, Alvinson Jolly, Ismail Lendo, Nicholas Bruno, Lee Louisi, Jovan Raphael, Joshua Sylvester, Melvin Defoe, and Donald Clark, the Champagne Reef Divers. The Champagne Reef Divers. The Barana Ote Warriors, managed by Mr. Alec Raffa, coach Mr. Thomas Kentish, marquee player Mr. Gian Benjamin. The team reads Courtney Anselm, Mervyn Matthew, Dylan Joseph, Delroy Liverpool, Kishon Viville, Derry Ogis, Andy Matthew, Fabian Benjamin, Morel Burton, Shamoy Williams, Wayne Ogis, and Jeremy Isaac, the Barana Ote Warriors. The Indian River Rowers, managed by Mr. Augustine Pascal, coach Sam Kernan, marquee player Vincent Lewis. The rest of the team reads Dion Burton, Lex McGlaw, Sholon George, Rick James, Savio Anselm, Tyrese LeBlanc, Gavin Masley, Ashwan Lockhart, Sherwin Labassiere, Joel Duran, Clement Masley, and Mr. Kind George. Come on, come on, come on, come on. The Indian River Rowers, now the Sari Sunrisers, manager Mr. Ainsworth Irish, coach Mr. Alexander Burton, marquee player Kazimi Benjamin, and the full team reads Stefan Pascal, Brian Joseph, Sebastian Brumant, Kyron Phillip, Romain Paris, Joel Mingo, Clyde Pierre-Louis, Cheston Dangleben, Nixon Afanaz, Delbert Graham, Anil Fountain, and Keron James, the Sari Sunrisers. And last but not least, the Valley Hikers, managed by Mr. Gary Benjamin, coached by Mr. Phoenix Thomas, with Kevin James as the marquee player. The rest of this team reads Kyle KB, Yawani Regis, John Fabian, Delaney Alexander, Jamie James, Shakim Thomas, Kyle James, Jesse Masley, Clemenson LeBlanc, Amiel Gilbert, D'Artagnan Lataille, and Quinton Hilaire, the Valley Hikers. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Dominican Cricket Association and title sponsors Dream 11, we want to congratulate all the players who have been selected in the inaugural Nature Isle T10 draft, and we would like to encourage all the players to be ready for a Taste of Nature on May 22nd to June 5th. All the players will be contacted in the coming week by Cricket Association officials, where we will implement all the rules and the discussions with all the teams. So again, want to thank the viewers and congratulate all the players selected. This brings us to this is the end of the draft.